Okay, so now we're at our final slide: majority and minority patterns of interaction. So I call this slide, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It basically presents the four different ways that the majority group, the dominant group, interacts with minority groups. So the first is pluralism, and this is the best possible outcome. It is a state in which people of all races and ethnicities, while distinct or different, have social parity or equality. In other words, we're all very different racially and ethnically, but we all are equal to one another. Now, which country is purely pluralistic? Purely pluralistic, meaning in that society, people are different, but they're all treated exactly the same. Well, it doesn't exist. Pluralism is an idea, it's something for societies to work towards. But does it exist in reality? No. People divide along a number of reasons. Now, assimilation. Assimilation is the process by which minorities gradually adopt the patterns of the dominant culture. So, you come to a country, and over time, you just assimilate. Like people come from different countries, and then over time, they're just American. So, it's sort of like the melting pot um, theory, if you will. You know, this idea that we're a melting pot. So if you know anything about a fondue, right? A cheese fondue pot, fondue could be chocolate or cheese. So you've got this pot, right? And you throw all these different types of cheese in there and they all melt down. And then you take bread and meat and you dip it in the cheese. And even the most sophisticated palate probably wouldn't be able to determine all the different cheeses that went in that pot. You got cheddar cheese, Swiss cheese, Colby Jack cheese, Monterey cheese, all this cheese, right? Swiss cheese. It melts down, all it tastes like is cheese. Because the basic recipe is cheese. Now let's use that to show how certain groups are able to assimilate while others are not. Throw some chocolate off in that pot. How well does it blend? It doesn't. You see, all those different cheeses are still cheese. So if you're German but white, Italian but white, Greek but white, Romanian white, Russian white, French white. As you assimilate to this country, you just become white American and thus American. But if you are someone of color, then you become the hyphenated American. You need a separate pot for them. So you are African American, Asian American, Mexican American. You're American, but you're something else too. So not all groups are able to assimilate unless they look like the dominant group. And then you're more easily able to assimilate into the overall structure of American society. Now, what is assimilation? Assimilation, I just talked about assimilation. Let me move on. Segregation. So segregation is the physical and social separation of categories of people. And in this country, up until 1965, legally it was permissible by law to separate people according to the law and create separate and unequal facilities and institutions for people across race. But just because the law passed in 1965, the Civil Rights Act, which outlawed discrimination by law, doesn't mean it doesn't still happen. There's something called de facto segregation or de facto discrimination. So if there's a community and whites move out and they move to a primarily white neighborhood, that is de facto segregation because they chose personally to separate themselves from people that were not of their same race. So that's de facto segregation. De jure segregation is segregation that happened by permission of the law. The law was set up. Legislation was created to separate the races. And this worked more pronouncedly in housing and in education. There's a book by Richard Rothstein called The Color of Law about housing discrimination, de jure segregation in this country. It is a powerful read, and I strongly recommend it. And then there is finally genocide. Now, this is the worst possible outcome when it comes to majority and minority groups interacting. Genocide is the systematic killing of one category of people by another. So the Holocaust in Europe started in Germany and then spread out, where Hitler attempted to kill people of Jewish descent, and also people who were gypsy. And then there were people of mixed race that were killed, and people who were developmentally or physically disabled, and people that were homosexual were killed in Nazi Europe and Nazi Germany, and where they, invaded certain countries. Rwanda, the Hutus slaughtered almost 800,000 Tutsis. Tribal differences was the reason for genocide. The Arawak Indians, when Christopher Columbus discovered America and completely wiped out an entire tribe of Native American people, and Native American people through history in this country have been genocidally wiped out. The Armenians slaughtered, or the Turks, I'm sorry, slaughtered 1 million Armenians, I think in either 1912 or 1914. So we do have patterns of groups of people completely being annihilated based on race, religion, or tribal differences. So that's it for the lecture. What's next is the quiz. So make sure you take the quiz according to the deadline for your particular class. So I'm going to send an email to let you know that the quiz is up and the notes are up, and you need to take the quiz by a certain time so that you don't miss it. Also, when I send you the email about the notes, I'm also going to send you the review for the third exam, because your third exam comes after this lecture. So it's going to cover the lecture on social stratification, gender stratification, and race. And so I'll be sending that out to you also. And I'm also still thinking about a extra credit opportunity that I'll probably put on sometime when these notes post. I know that the bookstore is closed and you can't really get tutoring at this time, but I'm thinking about trying to set up a discussion board on D2L where you guys can kind of go in and write a comment. I'll ask a question and you make a comment. I guess I'm interested in what you guys are doing with the shelter-in-place order by our governor. What are you doing to keep yourself busy, your mind busy, and to kind of relieve the stress of the times we're living in right now? It's very scary and it's very upsetting. And for any of you that have lost family members to coronavirus, or you have friends or loved ones or someone you know personally, you have my deepest sympathy and regard. So continue to take care of yourself, wash your hands, practice social distancing, and most importantly, when you go out to the store, go only when you absolutely have to. And please wear gloves, and if you can, wear a mask, because it's important that you protect yourself from any bodily fluids or droplets. If someone sneezes or coughs, or sometimes people touch things in the store. I saw a lady taking strawberries out of a container and taking the ones she wanted and putting the other ones in other containers with her naked hands. She wasn't even wearing gloves. And when I let the produce manager know, they threw every single one of those cartons of strawberries away, because what that woman was doing was putting other people in danger. So please be very careful, because not everybody is taking this seriously. All right, that's it for the lecture. Take care. Bye-bye.